Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Step back into the video today, and today we're going to be talking about what the Sacramento Kings offseason should look like after being eliminated last week by the New Orleans Pelicans 105-98, I always get the in-season tournament and play-in tournament confused when you're bringing it up. Now, I don't get confused of what they are, but always when I'm about to say one of them. Whenever I'm about to talk about the play-in tournament, I always say in-season tournament. It's so weird. But the Kings did lose in the play-in tournament to the Pelicans 105-98. Their season is over. That was last week. I've been meaning to do this video for a couple of days now. It's Thursday, currently recording this video. Last Friday is when the Sacramento Kings lost to the Pelicans and their season ended. Before I get to what I believe the Sacramento Kings offseason should look like, there are some big decisions that will be made this offseason for the Kings. They have a big free agent, someone who finished second place in Sixth Man of the Year voting, and Malik Monk was big for their team. They also have multiple tradable contracts, guys like Kevin Huerter and Davion Mitchell, and also Harrison Barnes, who could potentially be trade candidates for the Sacramento Kings this offseason. But first, I want to get to where the Kings a disappointment this year. And I saw someone say something about, you have to maybe look at, I think it was Bobby Marks from ESPN that said something about, if you look at the Kings this season, you could very well think that they're, were a disappointment this year for, what they were last year. And I want, I've done some digging, looking at standings and win improvements, just comparing NBA standings in the Western Conference from the 22-23 season to the 23-24 season, and not only win improvements, but also how improved the Western Conference was compared to last year. This was one of the best. This was one of the best Western Conferences in a long time. I mean, there have been a couple a lot of really good seasons that where the West has shown some very high firepower, but I think this year was one of the best Western Conferences we've seen. I want to start with the Houston Rockets. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Rockets fan. I mean, you had an 11 seed who had a 500 record. That's for starters. That's my first starter right there. Last year, the Dallas Mavericks were the 11 seed, and they were 38-44. So when you have a team that's at the 11 seed, that before if you look at the team that was the 11 seed this season in the Western Conference, would have been the 9 or 8 seed in last year's Western Conference. So that's one thing. But I'm not going to just go over the 11 seed. But that's just one of the things I thought was crazy, is that the Rockets put up the most wins ever by 11 seed. I know in the Western Conference for sure. It's the most wins by an 11 seed out of all time. That the Rockets put up with 41 wins, which it's crazy to have a 500 record as a 11 seed, and it shows how good the West is. And since I'm talking about the Kings, this is another thing I want to go over, which it shows that the Kings were not a disappointment this year. This just proves how good the Western Conference is. The Sacramento Kings were the 3 seed. They dropped from the 3 to the 9 seed this season with 48 wins. They went 48-34 in the 22-23 season, where the 3rd seed looked like one of the best teams in the Western Conference. They looked like a real contender, but they got eliminated in 7 games against the Golden State Warriors. I think that's something, the Kings, they very well should have won that series against Golden State, in my opinion. But they won 48 games last year. You know how many games they won this season, the 23-24 season? They won 46 games, went 46-36, and were the 9 seed. So their win total only falls by a total of 2 wins. They won 48 last year. They win 46 this year. But yet they fall from the 3 seed all the way to the all the way to the 9 seed. Another thing with this Western Conference this year, you had 5 teams in the Western Conference with 50 or more wins. The Mavs, the Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, the Thunder. You want to look at last season's Western Conference, only 2 teams with 50 wins. That was the Nuggets and the Grizzlies. So, I mean, this Western Conference this year was unbelievable. And I think two of the craziest stats that I've said so far is, number one, 11 seed Rockets had a 41-41 record, 500 record as 11 seed, which has never happened before. And then the other fact is that the Kings went from being the 3 to the 9 seed, and their win total only dropped by 2 games. Those are 2 things that I look like, and I look at, I'm like, okay, yeah, the West was really good this year. But I want to get to what the Kings offseason should look like, because I just wanted to get off that. I wanted to get that out of the table because, look, everybody in the West improved this year. The Thunder improved massively. The Thunder made a win improvement of 17 game improvement for the Thunder this year. A 19 win improvement for the Houston Rockets, who went from winning 22 games to 41 wins. The Timberwolves were another team who were a very improved team, winning 14-game winning improvement. Also, the Dallas Mavericks went from 38 wins to 50 wins. The Los Angeles Clippers went from 44 wins to 51 wins. I'm going to go over one more, and the final one I'm going to go over is the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns went from I'm going to go over the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans went from 42 wins to 49 wins. So the West was very improved this season. But I want to go over what I think the Kings offseason should look like. Let's go over it. I don't have a lot going on, but here's the first one. I think even though, like I said, the West was really good and you still played really good basketball, I think they were a little bit inefficient, in my opinion. The Kings were a little bit inefficient. They did play, like we would see the Kings play really good basketball. They'd have a really good game, and then the next game they'd get blown out. The Kings had a major inefficiency problem, and I really think they need to add in another star or an all-star. I would say more of an all-star type of player next to De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. I really like the 2 young guys and the 2 rising. I would say rising star for one of these players, but coming. I would say the other players, an up and coming player. 2 youngsters I really like who are second year will be going into their 3rd years. Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis. Love those 2 guys right there. Those are 2 guys I think are keepers for this Kings team. But yeah, so I'm gonna go over the trade I think they should make. So I think they should trade Davion Mitchell, Harrison Barnes, Sasha Venskov, Kevin Huerter, 2026 first-round pick, top 10 protected, 2028 first-round pick, top 8 protected for Alex Caruso and Zach LaVine. I think this would be a good trade for the Bulls. You had an amazing defensive player, and Alex Caruso considered one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. Also, a really good three-point shooter as well. Averaged 10 points per game in the 23-24 season with 4 assists per game, 4 rebounds per game, 2 steals per game. Also was 11th in Defensive Player of the Year voting in the 22-23 season and was all defense NBA in the 22-23 season. So he's one of the best defenders in this league. I would say he is a top 10 or if not a top 12 defender in the NBA. And then you got a guy like Zach LaVine, who is a 2-time All-Star, and outside of his injury problems this year, is a great player. Zach LaVine in the 23-24 season only played 25 games. He averaged 20 points per game. But the season before that, he averaged 25 points per game with 5 rebounds per game. The year before that, he averaged 24, being an All-Star. 2021 season averaged 27 points per game. And he was really good for he's been really good for the Chicago Bulls in 7 seasons, averaging 24.2 points per game. I think he'd be a really good addition alongside De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis and The Kings would have themselves a really nice backcourt of Darian Fox and Zach LaVine. I think it would definitely be a nice group right there. But yeah, so let's get into what else I think the Kings should do this offseason. And the next move I think the Kings should make is a no-brainer, and it's re-signing Malik Monk. Malik Monk was spectacular for this Sacramento Kings team this year. And look, I'm a big Naz Reid guy. I really like I really like Naz Reid, but I believe that Malik Monk deserved that Sixth Man of the Year award. I think it really hurt Malik Monk that he got hurt at the end of the year and missed the final stretch of the season. And I also think it helped Naz Reid that he was on a top, a higher seed. Malik Monk was playing for the 9-seeded Kings, while you have Naz Reid playing for the 3-seeded Timberwolves. Although this is not about a team, how the team's doing, in my opinion, type of award. This is how the play, what the players, producing. But Monk in 26 minutes per game averaged 15 points per game, 5 assists per game, and 3 rebounds per game. He was great when the Kings needed him to step up, and was great off the bench. He shot 35%, and this was his best season in the NBA. No-brainer to re-sign him. Another guy I think the Kings should re-sign is Alex Len. He's a nice big man, and you're gonna need a backup center. So I think he could be a good re-signing. Obviously they're gonna be other guys that you can go out there and pick up as backups, right? But I think he's a good option. He's been with the team for a couple of years now. He's been with the team for 3 seasons now, and he did a good job solid job this season. This season with the Kings, he played in 48 games, 0 starts, 10 minutes per game, averaged 3 points per game, 3 rebounds per game. Obviously, he's not going to be doing a lot when Sabonis is getting a lot of minutes. He's playing a lot at that 5 position, but Alex Len is not a bad backup center, and he probably won't be too expensive to bring back. Has been in this league for 10 years. And then someone else I think this Kings team needs to bring in is, look, if Harrison Barnes is gone, you need to bring in a power forward. And someone I like who's had a really good season with the Los Angeles Lakers as a part-time starter is Taurean Prince. I think he'd be a great signing. Adding in three-point shooters would be, you're adding in good three-point shooters this offseason. That's the mojo. With Domantas Sabonis, with how good of a facilitator he is, and how good we saw, him doing everything for the Sacramento Kings team this past season. Basically, like we see, it remind what he did this season. He's not, I wouldn't say he's as talented as Jokic, but does a lot of similar things to what Nikola Jokic does. He gets the ball to their shooters' hands, and not only adding in Alex Caruso, but also adding in Taurean Prince, their 3-point shooting would be improved for sure. Yes, you're losing a good 3-point shooter in Kevin Huerter, but on the other end, you're adding in a guy like Taurean Prince and a guy like Alex Caruso and a guy like Zach LaVine, all good 3-point shooters right there. So, I think Taurean Prince, if you're going to need a power forward, would be a no-brainer. Signing, averaged 9 points per game this past season, 3 rebounds per game with the Lakers as well. From 3 was a career year from 3 not a career year. He shot 40% in the 2021 season, but he shot 39.6% this season with the Lakers. But at the same time, this was the best he shot from 3 with the highest, with how high his attempts were. 4.6 3-point attempts per game, shot nearly 40%. So I think that would be a great addition for the Sacramento Kings. And the final thing I think the Kings should do this offseason, you got the draft. Look, probably Alex Len, he's going to be a guy who gets, signed to a 1-year deal. I don't see it being anything more than that. So you should get the backup center of your future. And I like Kyle Filipowski from Duke. I think he's someone who really could be a good addition. And I don't think that would be a terrible addition for the Sacramento Kings. He's not a terrible 3-point shooter for a big man who's over 7, or he's either 7 foot or 7'1". He shot 30% with Duke last year, so I think he's a really good center and a good defensive center as well. He's a really good shot blocker. I think he'd be a good addition for the Sacramento Kings team. Let me know your thoughts on my offseason thoughts for the Sacramento Kings in the comment section, and peace out.